today, and I think fortunately today versus 6 months ago, we're at the top of that curve. It just creates uncertainty, which everyone hates and always slows down the market. And so if you then take today's rates and then look at that
managers really have a huge task before them, because the stakes are just a lot higher. It used to be that you would design an office and you wanted
civilization. We'll have a lot better capability of simulating the types of things we can do to make changes, and then understanding how our digital twin of the Earth will respond to them. Right, so think about digital twin 4.0. That's finding a way to get
office building to residential is beyond the the average rehab cost.
Yeah.
So it's a challenge in the financing.
Correct.
Right?
Correct. It's a crazy, just because office is just massive floor plates, right? So you need light and air, and every bedroom needs, and you need forms of egress.
How we're able to reduce our embodied carbon, and also to make it a better experience for people. So you're coming from the beginning to the end.
It's a great migration out of California, out of San Francisco, that went to Texas. So areas of Texas have exploded. Dallas, Austin, Houston for a bit is on fire. And then there was a great migration out of New York, Chicago, and that migration went to Miami predominantly, or to South Florida. So South Florida, which was traditionally a retirement area, an area of wealthy, affluent people, not so much business, has completely changed in the last 2 years.
The mayor's One New York City sustainability plan, the agencies are required to put out projects that are going to be in line with the sustainability initiatives. And Local Law 97, I take it, when I think about sustainability, I think in 2 points working for New York City. One, New York City, as the biggest owner, has to build their projects sustainable and with the goals, with the competing needs of New York City: transportation, climate, resiliency. There's so many. And then also as a regulator, any construction going on in New York City, you have to go through Department of Buildings. You have to comply with many laws. So it's really 2 different levels as an owner for New York City. So in Local Law 97 was one of the initiatives to have builders, whether it's a New York City agency or a private owner, green gas and less carbon emissions. Number of projects coming out for 2023. The water, as I said before, the waterfront initiatives. I just wrote a few more down. The Green New York City in Inwood, the UN Esplanade, life sciences. I mean, the projects that are coming out, sustainability long term, and the projects that are coming out have to.
Manufacturing is starting to come back to the US. And I think that if we start to think about things like modular, there's a lot of modular businesses failed really just because of that lack of consistent pipeline that they have. And we're seeing, unfortunately, recent failures in the West Coast.
The robots going into, with DDP, going into the tunnels, or going into really unsafe places, use robots to do that. Some of the technology also for safety is the digital and the cameras for security and for safety, where you can get detailed pictures of the site, so inspectors don't have to go out onto dangerous construction sites to do their inspections. You can see it, digitally.
Technical profile of experience for the next 58 minutes. So I'm Paul Bradley, work for a company called Lendlease, which is a global developer and contractor across the world. My role at Lendlease in the US is the head of supply chain. Been in the country, if I can say that, for about 5 years. Been in the industry for 10 years. Preceding my experience in construction, I was in the nuclear decommissioning industry in the UK. So not much connection there, if I can say that. But it's great to be here and talk a little bit about what Lendlease is doing in this space.
They might be taking net less space by 20 or 25%, but they're willing to pay the premium to be in a trophy class asset that's fully amenitized with higher ceilings, tons of amenities, located close to transit, and that is a pull to get their employees, and a lot of them are front office employees, revenue generating employees, back to the office. And then kind of in parallel with that, with the financial services companies, they are looking to divest some of their workforce to these lower cost markets, the Jacksonvilles, the Atlantas, the Austins.
To create this quote-unquote soft landing while also not unintentionally putting us into a recession using the R word, right? And so that's where we're at today, and I think fortunately today versus 6 months ago, we're at the top of that curve, right? They might hike it one or two more times, but if you look at the consensus, we're at the top of the roller coaster, so to speak. I think if you go back 6 months ago, Q3, Q4 last year, there was a ton of uncertainty in the market about exactly how quickly and for how long that was going to occur. And so beyond just making it more expensive to borrow, which obviously converts to lower returns and worse real estate investment profiles, it just creates uncertainty, which everyone hates and always slows down the market. And so if you then take today's rates and then look at that specifically, the way it's affecting how investors are viewing.
See more kind of a hoteling system. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that. The spaces that are more becoming like hybrid, the floors that we have a hoteling system where you need to type it in, that you're booking the certain areas for your group interactions. It kind of secures your spot in a building. But it has own challenges because you definitely see more people flow from Tuesday to Thursday. We are seeing kind of more people coming into the office for those days, more people stay at home on Mondays and Fridays. And we have our challenges. I can't say it's perfect, but it's a work in progress.
So what about, so that's what's happening now, right? Kind of like this, the initial post-COVID, if you think we're past COVID. What about your view on in the future? Do you see this trend staying? Do you see a slow migration back to the offices? What do you anticipate?
So I definitely am seeing fully transition into a hybrid mode, and offices will have a kind of a use case for just collaborations that one. You will not see people coming to the office like it used to, because people during COVID did realize you don't need to be in the office 5 days a week to do your job. Obviously, it depends on the industry you work in. It doesn't apply to the nurses and doctors, but definitely for the stuff that we do, you don't need to be in the office 5 days a week. Kind of gives you the flexibility and unique experience to kind of be in the office because you need to brainstorm, because there is another big item coming on, upcoming year. From what I see, I don't see at least my client going back to fully being 5 days in a week at the office, and they're definitely.
It's not my wheelhouse, I just want to clarify. It's just something that I'm interested in. Right now, there are pilot timber projects, right? There's CLT projects in Brooklyn.
Timber is so expensive as well.
They live in the, live in especially in our city, they live in the premium world. And the question is, what can the city do, like you were saying, Jim, in in an R6 district, if you have a 6,000 foot lot, a 0.2 FAR gives you 1,200 square feet. That's 2 one-bedrooms. So a mom and pop developer who has a low risk tolerance goes, okay, I get 2 one-bedrooms for what would have been, than what I have. So that's a 20% increase in my output. Tweak the zoning a little bit. We already did CQA in New York City in 2016. Tweak that for sustainability, and with NYCHA's grants and programs, is there a way to kind of aggressively create some catalytic factors?
The numbers just don't work anymore.
What do you mean?
The numbers are just very hard to make work without the added. If you have the affordable units, then you have the tax benefit, but without 421A, it just becomes very, very difficult to make a deal work.
Absolutely.
Cost of construction, cost of lending, cost of goods and services, cost of product, it's taxes, insurance. It's become incredibly difficult to build anything that's not a superstructure.
100%, and that's just block and plank in our existing technologies. I'm talking about something that's a heavier challenge. It's a heavier lift, and it's just what I feel is that the city puts out 10 to 14 million square feet of residential units in this range where there is a possibility where tax incentives a 421Z, you know, if there could be.
They vacated the building. They defaulted on the note. The bank then sold the $800 million value building, I think at $260 million. They bought it at a huge discount, and they're going and they're creating an atrium in the building. They're sinking. They're creating a whole middle in the building, which is a huge cost. So yeah, so the option would be that bankrupt buildings that you could pick up for pennies on the dollar, then maybe it would make sense, but we're not there yet.
To add to that comment, right, practically to convert office building into a residential, what's involved? Demolition, a sprinkler system, egress, fire, 2-hour rating walls. So financing the cost to construct and convert office building to residential is beyond the the average rehab cost.
Yeah.
So it's a challenge in the financing.
Correct.
Right?
Correct. It's a crazy, just because office is just massive floor plates, right? So you need light and air, and you need every bedroom needs, and you need forms of egress. It's just incredibly difficult.
They can be solved. So like a typical residential unit, from window to the back of the unit, a kitchen, is about 30 feet, right? Yeah. So you add 2 and you have a corridor, and then you have another 30 feet. So say typically a residential building is anything between, if they're smaller units, anything between 55-foot bar to call it 70 tops right now, right? But when you're looking at a 100-foot deep building, now suddenly you had to build a new core. It's just the first costs are pretty onerous.
Good question. Thank you. Any other questions?
For going to work during the pandemic and so on. They are our most important assets. They should be treated that way, and that training just allows them to grow and supports the people who are not in front of the end users all the time.
Thank you. Warren, I know you wanted to mention something as well.
Yeah, overall, I think we've covered a lot of the great topics around hospitality, concierge. Sorry about that. I think, just in terms of overall experience, there's the physical component in which we're talking about facility management, but there's the digital component, right? And that's where the hybrid comes in. And, there's a range of how we interact with technology. You have folks at companies they just need a laptop, maybe Excel. And then you've got the higher end, right? You've got the Bloombergs, or maybe they're using AutoCAD and everything in between. And for us, it's super important to be able to align that with the corporate organizational goals, and then deploy that to support everything that's happening in the physical environment as well.
Thank you. I wanted to go back to the process of finding and designing office today. Jack, I'm going to ask you, do you think anything has changed with the pandemic? And how do you think the process is still going to evolve going forward?
I kind of touched on this a little bit before, in that companies really are being a lot more thoughtful about how they go about designing their office space, and it feels a little bit as if pre-pandemic there was a lot of trends out there, hot desking, open office space concepts that were just kind of widely adopted because that's what the Googles and the Amazons of the world were doing, but maybe not necessarily the best fit for that particular business. And I think in designing an office space now, the heads of real estate and the facilities managers really have a huge task before them, because the stakes are just a lot higher. It used to be that you would design an office and you wanted good employees.
The traditional East Coast cities are no longer the powerhouses that they were.
As designers and architects and contractors, to start looking at how we're able to reduce our embodied carbon, and also to make it a better experience for people. So you're coming from the beginning to the end, where you're stepping in the building and you're having this experience that would be closer to nature within a building. I mean, there's obviously limitations. They've done studies that if you're in a hospital and you're looking out the window and you see a tree, you are more likely to heal faster. I think you heal like a couple days faster than you would if you're just looking at a brick wall. So there's really, there's an opportunity to start to get people to look at bringing different elements like nature and wellness and also marketability of that, because we're coming from being home for a couple of years. We were able to work in the park or work in our backyards or take a conference call while you're walking. And I think people want to bring that experience into where they're working and where they're living now more than ever, because we saw that we don't have to be at our desks 24/7. We want to start bringing that more into the spaces.
And I think we're definitely moving in the right direction, because I can't remember the last time we started a new project. It had to be for the past 2 years, where we have sustainability meetings endlessly, and we are really starting the discussion very early again in the project lifecycle, design and concept. So this is something that is being pushed very heavily. So having that conversation now being part of every project and at every aspect of design, on the engineering side, architecture side, that's very big. So it's really reassuring to see that.
A builder, designers, and an engineer. This is like your integrated team with clients and some other folks.
But I think there really needs to see a push for it to actually happen. So years ago, I was working on a project, and I think it was the first lead project I ever worked about. And there was this whole thing about, integrated design.
When you think about big problems, hunger, climate change, the problems that we're going to face as a civilization, we'll have a lot better capability of simulating the types of things we can do to make changes, and then understanding how our digital twin of the earth will respond to them. Right? So think about digital twin 4.0, that's finding a way to get everything to talk together. Industry 5.0, that'll be finding things that are in different industries talking to each other. And then 6.0 may be finding different industries talking to different types of organizations, trying to solve the biggest problems that the world faces. So I am hopeful that digital twins will be able to provide that promise for us and help us to solve the biggest problems that we face as people.
That is some optimism right there. How do you feel about that?
I am more hopeful. I'm even more hopeful before.
Slowly raising the bar. I like it. So we talk about this predictive learning and kind of AI, machine learning-ish conversation. We're slowly broaching that topic. It's a very hot topic these days. I'm sure everybody's played with the very famous text-based AI.
Say its name.
No,
Say its name. We've all used it.
Bing, right?
Oh, yeah, Bing.
Have you seen that being used right now to add value to digital growth, or even just the typical design or technology kind of workflow process?
Yeah, it's added value when I'm lonely and want to throw some ideas at a computer. That's been great. Yes, I have used ChatGPT. I said it. What a cool, fun tool, right? And I think it's not so much what that does, but this new space of like AI, but commercial AI, where I want to say normal people can use it like me, right? Like I don't know how, I can't create AI by myself, but now I can use it as a tool, and I definitely see those applications, those new tools and technology that come out be a part of the digital twin process, right? So whether we're talking about predictive analytics
And then you've got the death of office. San Francisco office occupancy is at 44%. Los Angeles occupancy, I think, is at 46%. We just saw Brookfield, one of the largest landlords in the world, walk away from 2 assets in Los Angeles.
On a reduction of greenhouse gas emissions of 40% by 2030 and 85% by 2050 by 1990 levels.
You will benefit from cheaper debt financing by doing it. So you're not only getting better financing, you're also saving the environment, saving the country and the world.
They not only have recycling throughout the building, they have a zero waste program. They have organic bins on every single floor and multiple organic bins for composting on every single floor. They're looking at, their pantries and their cafes. How can we reduce that single-use plastic? Going not just to remove, the forks and knives, the plastic forks and knives, but how can we use reusable reusable bins for our food. So when you come to our cafe, we're not giving you a single-use item at all. We're putting it in Tupperware containers, but a different branded Tupperware containers that you can take to your desk or you can take to anywhere in the building you use, and then you can put it away, and we wash them and reuse them.
The two kind of tenants. And you've got 3 or 4 guys living in a 2-bedroom, eking out a living, doing 4 jobs, paying that crazy rent just to stay here in the New York dream.